even George Washington. I don't know exactly what the truth might be, but I know that we're given these little simplistic childhood depictions of like the man who cannot tell a lie and the cherry tree. And it's like, I'm sure it wasn't like that. I'm sure there were a lot of games being played, and I don't know if he was a good guy or not, really. And I never will.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that it is. There's a little bit more nuance to a lot of these characters who started our country. The common notion that these guys are all Christians isn't really bared out in the facts of Jefferson. They were more like deists, really.
Right. Absolutely. And Freemasons, it was a lot more overt in the early America that the politicians, the people who make the rules, are just open Freemasons. And then there's some weird stuff about Ben Franklin and the Hellfire Club and the strange amount of bodies found under one of his cabins. And then the apologists come out and say, well, that was because he was such a scientist that he was studying the human body on cadavers. And in his time, that wasn't allowed. So this is the only way he could do it. And it's like, well, I still have questions about that. Even your official story seems weird, but it's probably a darker story than just that. So I don't know, but I
Well,
guess
his real life, he gets deified. He had like 40 children or something like that. He eventually he was a womanizer of the first order, and eventually at the revolution, like one of his sons fought for the king. One of his like illegitimate sons. Like there's a lot more to his story. Yeah.
damn. Well, we're kind of just all over the place here, but let me ask you, you've been looking at so many things for such a long time doing the podcast. What do you think is one of the events or situations in American history that doesn't get the attention that it should? You highlight several in your work, from the smiley face killer to the Order of the Nine Angles, but is there an event that you think should be looked at under the microscope in American history that just hasn't, to the degree that other events have?
It's a good question. I think that goes back to this theme of behavioral control, and I would go into the MK Ultra. I think people may not address that as much, but it was a very successful, in my opinion, thing to create these uh, patsies, and it suffuses our entire culture all the way to the present, all the way with the school shooters and strange events, and it's really a means of social control. And I think that was really the end, but it really suffused our entire kind of culture for a time. Psychiatry, almost everything, the monies that were spent for MK Ultra were dispersed throughout all these institutions and areas. So a lot of this stuff that's happened should be seen together when it's seen independently. So I think that actually Sirhan, I think Oswald, and I think the killer of Martin Luther King, what was his name? I can't remember now. But I think they all came out of behavior modification programs. And they're very young, too. Like Sirhan was 24, Oswald 24, and James Earl Ray. He was released from a hospital and then all of a sudden shows up at the MLK things. These are things that need to be looked at
Oh,
because
yeah.
these guys are still out there. Yeah. And this is 50 years ago.
And psychiatry today seems very dark. The pills that they give people have gotten even crazier. There's even a website now. It's not Better Health, but it's something adjacent to it where you can basically talk to a psychiatrist just through Zoom, and then he'll prescribe you medicines. And there was a story I heard where there was a girl who had gotten some medications, and then she said that she was having these reoccurring dreams that she was killing herself in multiple different gruesome ways. And then one day, her dad busted into her room and found her trying to hang herself in her closet. And she burst into tears and she's like, I thought I was dreaming. And it's just
Wow.
like, these drugs can do some pretty wild stuff to the human mind. And I guess we're only concerned with making sure people are muted. And that's really like, if they're muted and they're their baseline, then I guess that's a successful medication. It just seems really wild. And look at every shooter we've had over the last decade. They're all on these drugs. Why don't we talk to their psychiatrist? And hey, I mean, even just in a conventional sense, was this a misdiagnosis? Like, shouldn't you be somewhat responsible for putting these pills in a person that alters their brain chemistry? Maybe we should stop doing that. So yeah, that all comes out of this MK Ultra milieu that you've brought up. Like, it's even the less high profile shooters are still deeply affected by the realm of psychiatry, the drugs, and I think a lot of these techniques that came from MK Ultra.
No doubt. It's still out there. It's much more sophisticated. They think that Sirhan was guided by a guy on a radio, like, so there was no need for contact. But I think some of these other more recent shooters, there was a guy who shot at Buffalo. He had an FBI agent talking to him online. So a lot of these guys can be controlled through websites or things like that, and they change the culture. I mean, destabilize, Operation Chaos type stuff to keep people off their toes. But these drugs, they put you in a fugue state. Like, they don't make you happy or whatever. That's not the point. You're right. They put you into kind of like this other dream state or things like that people can do strange things. So I wouldn't trust psychiatry. They make money off it. I mean, you're a lifetime user of that stuff. The psychiatrist probably gets a kickback, I'm assuming, just like any other drug.
Right. I mean, I had a previous guest. I know we've both done shows taking apart Big Pharma, but I had a previous guest who just made this offhanded comment about surgery and saying this is a person who only makes money if they get to cut you open. So guess what? You visit a surgeon's office for a consultation, they're probably going to find a way to cut you open. Is it the best solution for your problem? Who knows? Who's to say? I'm no expert, but I just know that this person gets paid by taking a knife to your body and going in and tinkering. And so that's what they're going to recommend. And it is true. I mean, across the board with Big Pharma and anything, it's like a car mechanic. They make money by finding problems. Are they real problems? Hard to say. And the big machine treats your body the same way. So yeah, you got to be careful. Psychiatry is no different. It's just another branch on the tree.
No doubt, they're incentivized to therapeutically, talk to you forever. That was one of the big complaints about Freudianism is you never get out of it. You just keep going to your therapist forever. So the therapy obviously doesn't work if you're continually going back to this person. So the financial motive on all these things is like very important.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And it's always been talked about, like the big trope is, well, how does that make you feel? That they really just ask questions and let you drone on. But yeah, it's like, what kind of therapy is it if it never solves the problem, if it just keeps you on the hook for the rest of your life? And then you get all these celebrity endorsers of therapy. It's like, yeah, sure, you make a couple $1 million making a movie, and then you pay a guy to hear you talk for an hour every week, like a narcissist would enjoy, you'd expect. And then you recommend it to everyone, like Howard Stern's biggest advocate of therapy. Yeah, to regular people who can't even afford that kind of thing. Sure.
Right. I mean, it's everything's really corrupt. I had that experience. I busted my knee open and I went to UCLA and he said, "Oh yeah, we're going to have surgery. You're going to be in a cast for 6 weeks." And I said, "Well, can I go get, physical therapy or something like that?" "No, I think surgery is the best thing." I just looked at him like, this guy's a car salesman. I thought, I've been in sales, so I know the techniques. You only give one per person one option. And he was doing that exact same thing to me at UCLA. And I was like, I don't know, man. And so then I just kind of therapeutic. My leg got better. I cannot play basketball like I did when I was 25, but I don't even notice my knee anymore. And I tore my meniscus. It healed. It healed. There's no question about it that it just healed on its own.
Yeah, I think that's a big rabbit hole, that the body can heal itself. And the doctor's role is to get in there before that happens, or even to stop that process. There's people who've written books about childhood illnesses and just the process of growing up, and that the fever is a defense mechanism of the body. The body heats itself up to burn off the toxin or whatever you got inside your body. And we see a fever of 101 and we rush to get that thing down as quick as we can, which essentially is like stopping the body from removing the toxin. And then you get prescribed a medication, which includes what? More toxins. And so the goal is to get your body used to toxins for the rest of your life, as opposed to letting the body do what it naturally would do and burn that off. And that makes sense to me because the human timeline is quite long, and big pharma and petro pills, this is not, it's just a blink of an eye that we've had that. So how do we even get here if that stuff is so crucial and necessary for our survival? You know, it doesn't really make any sense. Can you believe it, people? A video clip and a peek into how that sweet THC sausage is made. For some people, I'm sure it's nice to put a face to the name, so I started making clips that are a little more YouTube friendly than the full show tends to be. Get the full show on any podcasting platform. I prefer to keep it audio only, so we have a more decentralized distribution for a controversial show, and also so I can edit out the ums and ahs and barking dogs and all the things that happen when a person records in their home environment. And then if you really like the show, you can sign up for THC Plus, and instead of 1 hour interviews, you get the full 2 hour interview for just $8. I think that's a better deal, more of a win-win than asking you to support the show by booking a therapy session or buying generic Viagra. It's getting weird out there, folks. So just go to the highersidechats.com or click the link at the top of any set of show notes, and all your wildest dreams will come true. All right? All right. The Higherside